LeBron, left of the circle, left of the lane, flips it up on the rim and in. What a shot! Picked up by Mo, down the floor, going to go all the way and hammer it home with our 69-60. Bergeau, lob to LeBron, pass down deep to Damon Jones, out to Booby, 3-ball, got it! 73-67, timeout Detroit.
And welcome to Sports on Tap. We're here from RRT Production Studios in North Richfield, Ohio, learning on the fly as we do this without Josh Jeffy, who's our audio engineer. Welcome in Ed Dick and Sean Duffy.
Yo. We have just proven the fact that Duffy and I
worthless.
We do nothing more than talk and acquire talent to come on said show.
Right.
As far as the technical aspects of any of this, we struggle.
It's a two-man operation, and we are not either of those men.
Correct.
You know what you learn though, and I learned quite a bit actually doing trying to figure out where things exactly plug in on the mixer here because Josh usually is in charge.
So basically, what you learned was that without Josh, this ship is just one wheel.
Yeah,
falling
with
off
the audio.
Yeah, we got like Oregon Trail missing a wagon wheel. Someone's gonna get dysentery and typhoid fever by the end of the show.
Two of our oxen have died.
Everybody here is an important part of our show here, and
some more important than others.
That's right. No. Everybody's important equally here. But what we are going to do is talk a little Cavaliers basketball. We were listening a little bit before. You guys weren't able to hear because our headphone mixer isn't good right now. But Joe Tate was, calling a few Cavs games. I didn't look up John Michael to get some of his calls from recent.
He's fine.
But, he's okay.
Yeah. Not worried about John Michael now.
Yeah. No, he's solid and
he is.
And the Cavs guys, It's unbelievable, during the regular season, everybody was so worried about how they were playing, and Ty Lue still wasn't getting the job done. He was kind of struggling as a coach, which, he finally got, the reins because David Blatt was unfortunately dismissed from the team. What do you guys think is the biggest difference from the regular season now to the playoffs? Because, it's a night and day effort from the team. They're really gelling on all levels, and they're having a lot more fun now, it seems like.
From a completely non-basketball-related thing, I think it's just simply it's the playoffs, and now's the time to really drill down. Not to say that they didn't do that before, and I'm basing this strictly off of what the Cavs did after Lue was hired. I'm not going to go back to the David Blatt first half of the season because I think there is an obvious change in how the team is gelling. But after Ty Lue started, and they still started out, they didn't exactly set the world on fire once Ty Lue took over. But when you're in the playoffs, you get a chance to really focus on the same. You focus on the same opponent, and you're able to find different ways to exploit them. And they've. In Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, we saw Toronto. Yeah, they were a little slow. They're a little banged up. But the Cavs, instead of bombing away threes like they did against Atlanta, they only made 7. They only took 20. They got the majority of their points in the paint because Toronto, for whatever reason, decided to let them play one-on-one ball and then not offer help defense to the cutter. And that did lead to so many easy, wide-open threes for the Cavs, but also leads to easy, wide-open twos from a lot closer to the basket. So I just think the Cavs just are more focused. They know this is money time. They know this is, if the season comes down to this. Games 55, grand scheme of things, probably doesn't mean that much. And a player who may not normally dive on the ball is going to dive on the ball now. And that's kind of why that's what I'm thinking right now. Is I think it's a time for them to turn the Jets on, and that's what they've obviously done that, winning their first 9 games.
I honestly look at it as the regular season was something this Cavaliers team used to get the chemistry to figure out, and for Ty Lue to figure out what his rotation was, where he can go. and also to challenge guys like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love and say, look, LeBron got us to within shouting distance of a title last year without you guys. When you guys are healthy, which they are now, that's the biggest thing right now is that Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving are healthy, and now they're starting to come into their own. When and everyone points to the fact the Raptors beat the Cavs 2 out of 3. Well, all 3 of those games, Kyrie Irving was still technically rehabbing back into game shape. And Kyle Lowry at one of those games had to have his best game ever in order for the Raptors to beat the Cavs. Do you think that really matters in the grand scheme of things? Last night, the Toronto Raptors could not play defense against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and it was laughable. So much so that the national broadcasting team, Jeff Van Gundy, was actively yelling like out loud at the Raptors saying help defense. Mark Jackson was saying the same thing. It was embarrassing. If I'm a Toronto Raptor right now, I'm embarrassed because you went into game 1 after such a great performance in game 7 against the Heat to get there, and you laid an egg, and you called out LeBron, and you said all this stuff, and you basically told LeBron and the rest of the team that what happened in the regular season was indicative of what's going to happen in these Eastern Conference Final. And what you found out was, guess what? We don't need to shoot the 3 25 times. We don't need to make 25 threes to beat you. In fact, there's no, like you said, they only made 7 last night. And J.R. Smith didn't have a great game. I mean, from his shooting percentage. I mean, I don't think compared to...
He missed all 3 of his threes.
Right, compared to what he had in the Atlanta series. But Channing Frye, timely baskets. Dellavedova started scoring a little bit. And the problem is that there's the one-on-one defense, and we've heard it if you listen to national radio today, the one-on-one defense is terrible, and if you have terrible one-on-one defense, the help defense is going to be subpar at best. So what's happening is, like you mentioned, is now LeBron knows if it's DeMar Carroll, back him down and get the easy 2 or get the and 1, and that's happening. And I also think that there was a big concern coming into this playoff about the Cavs defense, and the Cavs defense in all these series we've seen has been pretty good. I mean, the Pistons probably was their biggest challenge defensively because they were able to spread the floor a little bit. But Atlanta, aside from a game or two when they had a great game, but still they were never dominant. And it always seemed like they take a quick timeout, they go back and they figure out how to stop them defensively, and they're just sitting there and they're hustling and they're hustling and they're hustling. Whereas, they were up, 15, and they were still hustling after balls. Like, when the Cavs were up 15 in the regular season, they took their foot off the gas and things like that. So it's definitely something to think about. And I also like it's very indicative to see how much fun this team is having.
Oh yeah, you see it on the bench. They're all going crazy. Mozgov hasn't played very much this postseason, but he's the first one off the bench going nuts and celebrating. Some of these guys that just like Dante Jones, who just joined the team, right before the playoff deadline. It's like he's been there the whole year. Yeah, and these are guys that aren't playing that much on the floor right now, but we don't know what they're doing behind the scenes, really helping these guys, helping the starters prepare for the games. And for whatever reason, just seems like the team, and this could have just whatever Ty Lue's doing in the background. The players just seem to trust him more, and it could be just as simple as, hey, this guy was one of us at some point. He's an NBA guy, and the players are choosing to accept Lue as their coach, which is something they might not have wanted to do with Coach Blatt. And it's unfortunate because you'd like to think that, hey, this is the coach, we got to do what Coach says. Yeah. In basketball, it's obviously not the case because we've seen so many cases where the players force a coach out. Yeah, and you got to give GM David Griffin some credit. Oh yeah, he saw the writing on the wall. He knew what was going on, and he scapegoated Blatt, but really he put that on the players. Yeah, and Blatt just happened to be the collateral damage that had to go with it.
And I think again, it strikes me how last year in the playoffs, as we got to the Eastern Conference Finals and we played the Hawks, there was maybe 8 guys that actually played in the game, and a lot of that had to do with injury. Now again, I want to caveat that by saying at that point Kyrie was hit or miss. Kevin Love was out since Boston, and our bench was, elderly to say the least. I think our youngest guy was Dellavedova, who didn't play a lot, and now he got all that experience last year, and now he's able to get out there with Kyrie, with that second unit, and there's not that much of a drop off. They're able to stave off any sort of run, so you're giving a guy like LeBron James rest. LeBron James played 28 minutes last night. LeBron James, the second best player in the league, according to Kyle Lowry, played 28 minutes, and they still won by 31. So it's not like it's. I think the burden is there from a leadership standpoint for LeBron, but production standpoint, he's able to do what he's very, very good at and facilitate things. And as a guy who is a threat to score at any point, I don't see how the Raptors. I know everyone says, Valanciunas isn't in, but like I said, would it have made a difference? Would that have been a difference between losing by 31 and 15 last night? Because Valanciunas is not a guy that's going to go off for 30. And DeRozan had a great game last night. He was hitting. He caught fire there. But the problem is that whenever a team starts to get on a run, Ty Lue calls that quick timeout. They go back to the thing and they just draw something up defensively and they fire up the crowd. And again, the atmosphere at the Quicken Loans Arena last night was really good. For game one of a finals, man, it was rocking in there. So,
what do you guys? Did you guys see anything? There was an article written, and I don't remember who wrote it, that kind of explained the regular season. And at one point, Ty Lue actually told LeBron to shut the bleep up. Basically, that this is my job. I'm the coach here. In a huddle, and they said from that point on that Ty Lue had the grip of the team, because for a while the team kind of thought that Ty, for the most part, they were playing to win for LeBron James, not LeBron James playing to win for everyone.
Right.
So that seemed to be a problem among players, and everyone wanted to do their own thing. But since Ty Lue kind of stepped up and told LeBron, this is my huddle, you need to just listen to me, the team has come together and played different basketball, which I think a lot of it, too, when you get into the playoffs. I agree completely. When you get in the playoffs, you turn into a different mode for the most part. And these guys are in different mode, but you could tell they're having a lot more fun together. They're doing things on and off the court together that you could tell they're enjoying being together. And they're playing at an unbelievable level. Ty Lue's offense, maybe this is the same offense that Blatt had. Maybe the players weren't as into it then, and to get them to believe in his offense. But whatever Ty Lue's doing, it's obviously working with this team. And I wonder if you guys think that had anything to do with it, or, like you said, is it just the playoffs, or do you think they believe in Ty Lue as a head coach?
To answer your question, I don't. When Ty, if that article is true, and I just looked it up, but if Ty Lue says that to LeBron James, I think that carries more weight by Tyronn Lue than David Blatt. David Blatt and LeBron James were an arranged marriage to a certain extent. They were that. I think Tyronn Lue stayed in Cleveland because he knew LeBron would need somebody that's played in the game, that knows the game. But also Tyronn Lue is a very well respected player, a very well respected assistant coach, and now a very good head coach. And I think it took that a guy that's played in the league, that's won championships, that's been on several teams, has been in the professional game longer than David Blatt. David Blatt had no street cred beyond Israel.
The NBA professional game.
Yeah, the NBA professional. You're right. You're in the league. I think that carries more weight than David Blatt. Not to say David Blatt's a bad coach. I don't think David Blatt's a bad coach. I think he's a coach that needs to get a little street cred in the NBA, whereas Tyronn Lue, being a player and then transitioning to coach, gets a little bit more credit for anything he does. But he also, he knows his stuff. He knows how to motivate players. He knows, hey, we got a job to do. And I think maybe that was a weight off of LeBron. I don't know LeBron, what he's thinking, but I think David Blatt says that to LeBron. It ices the relationship. Tyronn Lue says that, and it's probably throws LeBron off. But he's like, okay, finally, I got a guy that knows what he is the leader of this team. I'm the player leader. Let's not kid ourselves. This is LeBron's team. Tyronn Lue is a great coach, but
I think any one of us can win 50 games on this team as the head coach.
Right. So
True.
I think. I don't think it's much of his offense. I think they just finally figured out that ball movement is better than isolation because it requires you have the ability to spread the floor more than you did. I think even last year. Last year all isolation because they had no other option.
Yeah, that's true. And there are a lot of options now. I mean, look at like you mentioned, the bench depth this year is infinitely better than it was last year. You can bring Richard Jefferson off the bench to completely spell LeBron.
Yeah,
you have Iman Shumpert, Dellavedova, Channing Frye. I mean, the Channing Frye trade is looking really good right
Absolutely.
now. Because you're not seeing Varejao really do much for the Warriors, and I think, and I'll be honest with you, I think the older that I get, the less attached you get to players. Yeah, when something like that happens, you see a guy who's been playing for you for 10 years gets traded. It sucks.
Yeah.
Because you know what his value is to your team, but then when you see him go to another team and that value decreases, and then the return piece, I mean, Channing Frye could not have come to a better situation.
Yeah.
He knows that.
Oh yeah,
and he's taking full advantage of it. That's when that's a very underrated move that David Griffin pulled off that he's not getting the credit for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's almost
it was
a
actually
crazy move.
Criticized at one point. Like it was almost seen as a move to be. It was almost. I think at one point, I don't know if it was Windhorst. They were talking about it on ESPN. Like it was the Cavs making a move for the sake of making a move. Like they didn't see at that time. They didn't see the reason for getting Channing Frye because it was almost like you're now you have 3 Kevin Loves or whatever. Because I mean now you have 3 4s whatever. But I think we're seeing it now where. Last year, especially in the finals, when we had to rely so heavily on J.R. Smith. I mean, J.R. Smith, for as good as he is,
he's not a number 2 option.
No, he's a guy. He's a spot shooter. He's he'll hit that shot that we all say, oh, whenever he pulls up, it's like you don't know if it's going to go in, but when it does, it's great. But when we had to rely on him in the playoffs as a second option, it became an issue. He became more of a liability. But also, what I've seen this year is he's playing, I mean, hands down, 100% better defense.
He played pretty good defense last year too, though.
Did he?
But
I think the problem was
that wasn't until the playoffs, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Who was the assistant coach the Cavs brought on that was a defensive coach? Do you think
Tyronn Lue? He was the
defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Well, Ty Lue,
but Jim Boylan and Larry Drew were the other coaches.
Oh, okay, because they brought in another guy mid-season this year, and they said he was one of the defensive specialists, and I can't remember. He was with the Phoenix Suns. They brought him in. I think the coaching.
I know James Posey is with the Cavs too.
Yeah, and so is Vitali. I think Potapico, isn't he still here? But I mean, I think the coaching has done a great job. But it's fun to watch the movement with this team. Passing the ball. I mean, look at Kyrie Irving. I was saying for a while with Kyrie, I was saying, I just don't know if he fits this offense because he's looking to score, which is great.
Right.
But you got to pass sometimes. And I was saying Chris Paul would make a better fit on this team than Kyrie Irving. Now all of a sudden, I'm not really yelling at Kyrie Irving because he's taking good high percentage shots and he's getting into the lane and creating for other players. And it seems like this team really on all cylinders. Last night, how about the Raptors though? Defensively, taking away the 3-point ball by the Cavaliers.
I mean, they did. They effectively took it away.
We had 7 threes.
Yeah, if they go into that and say we're going to take away the 3-pointer, they did. The problem is that they basically parted the Red Sea towards the basket. I mean, when Shumpert's dunking on you, going straight down the lane, when Dellavedova's able to get in there, pretty much, wide open for a shot. I mean, these guys are professional basketball players for a reason. They can knock down a 12-footer. I mean, uncontested. The problem is, and again, you look at it, LeBron James and the 3-point barrage that was the Atlanta Hawks series put them on edge. They went in there saying, "Look, we got to stop the 3-ball, and then we'll live with what LeBron." The problem is that Kyrie Irving can dribble drive, get to the rack. LeBron James can back any. I don't think anybody on that team can match up against LeBron James. Everyone's saying Patterson, but I don't see.
And DeMarre Carroll too.
Well,
but I don't.
That's who they had.
But DeMarre Carroll got. I mean, he was demolished last night.
Well, the first 3 times they went one-on-one with LeBron, Carroll got schooled. LeBron went to the hoop each time and had layups.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and it was clean, too.
So how sad is it that the Raptors' game plan actually worked? They held the Cavs to 7 3-pointers, and they still lost by 30 points.
Exactly, and you don't want to say too much about it. I mean, obviously, I think everyone's already written this series off.
Yeah.
We have to remember, I mean, the Oklahoma City Thunder lost by 30 to the San Antonio Spurs,
And they won that series.
and ended up winning
Yeah.
that series. They lost by 30-some points in the game one of that series, and I can tell you right now, the Raptors are no Oklahoma City.
No, yeah.
So
But you don't want to also jump to conclusion and say
No,
it's
absolutely
a
not.
foregone conclusion, and you know what? Let's just walk on the court and play like junk.
Well,
And I don't think this team is like that right now.
No.
I really I saw a great video from Northeast NEO Sports Insiders today, and it was the post game. And like, if you beat a team by 31, I don't care who you are. That's got to be in your mind that we're gonna beat this team. But it didn't look like that, and it didn't look like that even during the game. Like I said, they were up by 15 at one point, and they're still scrambling for rebound. I mean, Tristan Thompson. I don't listen. You may not like the fact that he's essentially a 6-man making a max money, but every time he gets an offensive rebound, it's like
he had 5 yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, but that's 5 that lead to second chance points. But he's been, and he does the work down there, and they're working, and I like that. Like I didn't even see them take their foot off the gas. And I mean, yeah, third quarter when they came out, but I just really think that's more of a trying to get, all right, we got to get focused into the game. I just don't see Toronto. Toronto's going to have an exemplary game from their best players, Lowry, DeRozan. If they get Valanciunas back, which I don't think they're. I mean, they said what, Monday at the earliest is
yeah,
when
he
he'll be
hasn't even
available?
done any basketball
It
activities yet.
Saturday, wasn't it? Game
Well,
I
no,
thought.
that's-
So I think he's missing
the-
game
if-
2
if
for
he
sure.
if he makes the game, he would be available for the Monday game.
Game 4?
Yeah,
Huh. I didn't know
because they said he wouldn't be available this week.
that. I thought he wasn't available for the first 2 games.
Yeah, first 2 games I know for sure, but I'm not sure about after that.
Okay, but,
Maybe he might
but again,
not be.
how effective is he going to be if he comes back? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think he's a pretty nice part of their team down low.
Yeah.
But when you look at the overall, the Raptors, I mean, Kyle Lowry has really struggled in this playoffs of inconsistency. You know, he had some nice games with Miami, but then he'd have an offer in some games. And last night he really struggled. You know, you look at the shooting by the Raptors. I mean, you have DeRozan, but who else do you have to rely on, you know, on their team? It's just a lot of inconsistent play from other players. But you know, that's why, you know, from game 1 to game 2, maybe they'll go back to the drawing board and figure out a new game plan because it didn't work last night. But like I said, the Cavs consistently, you know, don't sit down and think, oh, we got this series. They're going to come out strong and keep playing hard.
You got to remember, too, I mean, the Raptors were – they won 56 games this year. They're not a bad team. And you could say the same thing about Atlanta. They weren't a terrible team. They were the best defensive team for field goal percentage during the course of the regular season. You know, so the fact that the Cavs are making it look as easy as they are, it's not that the teams are bad, which is what the national media wants you to think, and especially the people who are out west and think that the East is a complete crapshoot. And,
Yeah.
you know, they're not really giving the Cavs credit for what they're doing.
Sean's shaking his head a little bit, like I think he thinks the West is a lot better than the East.
I think the West is more competitive than the East.
I'm not saying it's not, but I'm not crapping on. I'm not going to crap on the East completely.
No.
Just like everyone else is.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm saying
I
one.
agree.
I'll say 1 through 8 in the Western Conference is a lot more competitive. I'll even grant you this.
I'd say
5 through 8.
No, because 8 sucks.
Dude, the Houston
but-
Rockets
The
are
Houston
so
Rockets
terrible.
They were terrible.
But you know what?
I'll give you. I'll give you 1 through 4. Definitely better.
Okay.
I'll give you the
Like-
OKC, Spurs, Golden State, and I don't even know who the 4th seed is there.
It was the Clippers.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
and
Clippers
when the
before they
Clippers
got-
are
Clippers
healthy.
before they got hurt. Well, yeah. Okay.
But let's put it this way: the Houston Rockets are garbage. I mean, the Trailblazers are a good young team, but they remind me of.
They're missing. They need something. I think they need a big.
Yeah,
like
I
the
would-
Marcus Aldridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, hey,
Yeah.
they got just as far this year as they did last year with LaMarcus Aldridge. So you can't really. I mean, look,
They
as
could have
good
took
as
it to the
LaMarcus
next
Aldridge
level.
is, they were able to stem the tide a little bit in the Western Conference, which is pretty. I mean, it's a testament to that young core. Like I said, they get a big guy in there, maybe in the draft, something like that.
So
Now
what do
you're
you got? Now I had this talk with a friend yesterday who said, I mean, it's unbelievable. The Golden State Warriors won big time without Steph Curry. The Cavs without LeBron James could never do something like that. And I kind of disagree, just for the fact that the Golden State Warriors played the Houston Rockets. I mean, they're a garbage team. I mean, I hate to say it. And the Rockets at least won a game there. But
And they were pissed about it.
Yeah.
They were mad.
But
They're not happy.
Yeah, But, I mean, you look at the rest of the Western Conference, there are some good teams there, but there are also some pretty weak teams that don't even, that barely made the playoffs that really don't care if they're even there.
Well, Memphis was completely decimated.
Yeah.
And they
Of
made
injuries, for sure.
the playoffs because they put together a really good regular season, and they just happened to crap out at the end.
Yeah.
So they would have been in the same spot, I think, either as Charlotte. I think they would have equaled the Charlotte Bobcats spot as the 6th seed. And Charlotte is a young and up-and-coming team. They have a lot of talent on that team, and I know they gave the Cavs a little bit of fits this year, but they had Miami dead to rights. And they just couldn't finish it because they're inexperienced.
And that's a testament to a young team. So it's just tough to finish. And on top of that, at that time, I mean, Dwayne Wade, he'll win series for you. I mean, he didn't win against the Raptors, but a lot of that had to do with the fact that Dwayne Wade's age is catching up to him a lot more than people want to say. Like, I think he's in the spot that LeBron was last year, having to carry the team, and I think he got as far as he could. If he had healthy Bosh,
they're a younger team with not much.
Then we're playing them last night, not Toronto. But
the Heat. I watched Wade. I think he still has something left, but he can't do it by himself. He can't carry a team like that on his shoulders the whole entire. I mean, he can maybe a game or two, but I feel like he kind of ran out of juice. And he had Joe Johnson. The Whiteside was a pretty big loss.
Yeah, I mean, we're mentioning guys that were really good like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem.
Luol Deng is there, and I mean he was okay. Goran
Dragic.
Yeah, he's there as their point guard, and it seemed like they just didn't necessarily all mesh really well together all the time either.
I'll say that the Western Conference playoffs, outside of as a whole, were a little bit better than the Eastern Conference, simply because as good as Detroit was as an 8 seed, I'll give them all the credit in the world. They still got swept by the Cavs, and it really wasn't all that close a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
they played. I'll tell you what, they
played better than the Hawks.
Better than Atlanta did.
Yeah, but I'm saying
I couldn't just the Cavs trying to get their bearings right too.
Yeah, when you look at I watched a lot of the Toronto Miami series, and it was sloppy. It was just it wasn't really. I mean, look, there were great performances, sure, but it wasn't like when you watch the Cavs. That's a well-oiled machine. Like, at times, it's almost like they're playing. They're entertaining themselves out there. But I thought the Western Conference Finals, especially the Spurs-Oklahoma series, it called back to those games like, Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, Chicago. Those games where it was like, wow, any game could really go. It goes down to the wire. Like a lot of the Cavs games, if you take yourself out as a fan, we're pretty much over going into the. I mean, there were a couple that were closer than we wanted them to be, but I think a lot of that was just, a professional being a professional. I don't know. I would say this year's Western Conference Finals, Western Conference playoffs as a whole were more competitive than the Eastern Conference playoffs. I guess I shouldn't announce, like, anybody who makes the playoffs it's a good season, but in the Eastern Conference it's less because they're 8 versus. I mean, even Houston's a bad team. Houston's a bad example because I think that's just bad chemistry.
And that's a talented team that just.
All right.
Dwight Howard won't be there next year.
I mean, if you look at the combined records of the teams that the Cavs and the Warriors have played, the better records lie with who the Cavs played.
Okay.
And that's I'm going strictly off of numbers, obviously, but I mean,
and Ed's a numbers guy.
Yeah.
As is Sean.
Well,
for the most part.
Yeah.
But so, what do you guys think? One last question, then we'll take a short break and then talk a little Indians and also go into the Cleveland Marathon happened last week. We'll go into that a little bit, and also want to give a shout out to Tri-C's baseball team, Evan Agona. They were at one point 26-0 at home, and I think they're like 48-12 and ranked 6th in the national poll for junior college baseball teams. So congratulations to them.
So what's your question?
My last question. Yeah, that's right.
Way to lead
about the Cavs.
Over here waiting.
So what's going to happen?
What's
going to happen in the Western Conference, and what's going to happen with the Cavs and Raptors? I mean, are the Raptors going to at least win a game? And do you think the Warriors? They play tonight. Actually, probably pretty soon here. Yep. Do you think the Warriors will win tonight and win the series overall against OKC?
I think the Warriors are going to win tonight. I don't think they're going to win the series.
Whoa!
And the reason I say that is because Oklahoma City has what Cleveland didn't have last year, and that's a healthy team and 2 closers.
Yep.
Right now, the Warriors' bench players, their role players, aren't playing up to what they needed to be. The fact of the matter is, the Warriors' role players were better than our role players last year because our role players were starters last year. And that's not going to be the case this year, and it's not going to be the case right now against Oklahoma City. They have the firepower to be able to compete with the Warriors. It's just a matter of the Thunder not beating themselves at the end of games, and I think they have the talent to do it. It's not going to be easy. I think the Warriors are going to win tonight. I can see the series going easily 7 games, but they've already won at the Thunder have already won at Oakland. They can do it again.
Yeah.
I just don't like the Warriors. I'd rather not see them.
Right.
Not that I'm afraid, but I just don't want to put up with their BS again.
Yeah.
Curry.
As far as the Cavs go, I don't necessarily think that Toronto has enough lead in their pistol to take out. I mean, I just don't see them winning a game. Like
After last night, it's tough to think they would.
It was tough going into it because I just don't see Kyle Lowry doesn't scare me. DeMar DeRozan doesn't scare me. There's no one on that team that if we were playing the Bulls and Derrick Rose and all those guys, Jimmy Butler, if those guys got going, they would scare me. Or Miami, if Dwayne Wade and if that were the situation, I would be a little bit more nervous. But there's something about Toronto that does not lead me to believe that they're gonna. I mean, they may steal a game, and that would be at home because Drake tries to trip LeBron. Who knows? But I like I said, I don't see this going at most past 5 games.
Okay.
Which I guess would be good because it may just keep them in a rhythm going into the finals. But it wouldn't shock me if they swept again. I just, like I said, unless they figure something out between last night and tomorrow night, I don't think the Raptors have really a shot in this series. As far as Oklahoma City and Golden State, I'm with Ed. I don't think Golden State wins this series. I think Oklahoma City has just had the ball bounce their way too many times. I mean, they stole a game. They stole game 1. They stole a couple games in the Spurs series. But a lot of times you have to look. I mean, Golden State did that last year. I mean, they went 7 games. They weren't dominant.
Yeah.
And I think Ed's right. I think the bench that was so good last year has not shown up the way it did last year. And I think, or it was relied upon too much when Steph Curry went out. Klay Thompson is not a closer. Westbrook's a closer. Despite what Mark Cuban says, Russell Westbrook is a superstar in this league. You compare him to Kevin Durant, and Serge Ibaka apparently is able to shoot 3-pointers. And I mean, I'm impressed with that team, and I think I'd like to see Golden State just because I want to get a little bit of revenge in the finals. But does Oklahoma City scare you in the finals?
No.
Doesn't?
They don't, because I think we actually, from a personnel standpoint, we match up very well with them.
As opposed to Golden State, or?
Yeah, I think last year we just didn't have the horses.
Right.
This year we do.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I think that we would be able to. I think LeBron can lock up on KD, or he probably doesn't even have to, because you'd probably throw what other teams out. Well, regardless.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into it more because we should have wrapped this up a while ago, but regardless.
I will say I think Golden State could still win, but I could see a good storyline between OKC and the Cavaliers. So right now we'll step away. We'll take a short break. We have some nice spots that our Big Tim made for us that we're going to debut. So I want to thank him for that.
Good work,
We're
buddy.
Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. We'll be right back after this.
For the best coverage of Cavs, Indians, and Browns, check out NEOSportsInsiders.com. NEOSportsInsiders.com brings you breaking news, opinions, and video from all things related to your favorite Cleveland sports teams. Like us on Facebook and follow at NEO Sports Insiders on Twitter for live updates from all the games. NEOSportsInsiders.com, bringing you the best in Northeast Ohio sports coverage.
Can't wait for the next Sports on Tap podcast to drop? Then stay connected with us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcast and like our page at facebook.com/SOT Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to Sports on Tap on YouTube and iTunes and email us at sportsontappodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out Josh Jeffy's 6-pack of random and our full show archives on neosportsinsiders.com. Sports on Tap is your source for local high school sports talk in Northeast Ohio. Hear from your favorite teams, coaches, and players, and stay up to date with all the high school action no matter the season. Catch Sports on Tap live on Mixlr or find past shows archived on neosportsinsiders.com, sportsontappodcast.podomatic.com, and on iTunes and YouTube. Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. Join Sports on Tap for live broadcasts at Z's Cream and Bean on the first Thursday of every month from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Come see the faces behind the voices you hear on the podcast and hear from local athletes and coaches about their teams, seasons, and conferences. Enjoy delicious ice cream and milkshakes and join in on the fun at Z's Cream and Bean, 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. The Sports on Tap podcast, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network.